Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we are diving into the lore of another faction from Mount&Blade Bannerlord. This time it is the incredibly awesome Khuzait Khanate to the east. This is the 5th video in this series, and will cover their leader, their history, their military, and their descendants, and much more. If you haven't seen the other videos in the series, I invite you to do so, as they are basically the same thing as this, but cover each faction in detail, and are therefore very interesting and entertaining. For this video, I will draw primarily from Bannerlord and Warband for information, but I will also utilize the wiki and secondary historical sources as needed. But with all that in mind, let's dive on in and learn exactly what the Khuzaits have going on. Far to the east lies the Khuzait Khanate, a steppe horde made up of separate tribes, including the ancestors of the Khergit tribe from Mount&Blade Warband. These horse clans lay claim to the Great Plains and draw inspiration from the steppe hordes of Asia, with leaders inspired by the likes of Genghis Khan. They specialize in horse archers, skirmishing their foes from afar before running their remnants down like dogs, with flocks of infantry. The Khuzaits make a good fit for a strategic player who favors mobility over the claustrophobic hack-and-slash free-for-all that is medieval warfare. Now I'll admit that last line isn't totally historically accurate, but sounded really cool. The Khuzait Khanate is a kingdom in Mount&Blade II Bannerlord. It is ruled by Monchug Khan, and occupies the eastern grasslands and steppes outside of the continent of Calradia. But pause, before we move on, let's talk about Monchug just a little bit. Monchug Urkhun is the Khan of the Khuzait Khanate, and leader of the Urkhun clan. I'm sure you have heard of the name of this clan in the Epics of the Steppe. They carry the name of one of the 10 sons of the she-wolf, mother of all Khuzaits. The official in-game description of Monchug goes as follows. The current Khan of the Khuzaits is Monchug. With the empire in a state of disarray, he dreams of surpassing his ancestor Urkhun and conquering even deeper into the settled lands. Some of the clans have been decimated by the Urkhunids' wars, however, and feel their sacrifices have not been properly rewarded. They yearn for a Khan who is less interested in glory and more interested in justice. His fiefs include Makeb, Akalat, Shapaste, and Hanaki. So now that we have covered the leader of this nation of horse people, let's move back to their culture and discuss what makes the Khuzaits tick. Khuzait peoples were once nomadic tribes who roamed the east borders of the Calradic Empire, until threats from further to the east forced them to band together as a Khanate under Urkhun the Khuzait. This Khanate moved into and conquered the poorly defended eastern lands of the empire. Eventually, these nomadic tribes became settled in towns and villages they had taken. Their official in-game description goes as follows. For centuries, the tribes in the vast steppe east of the empire were content to live as nomads, venturing into the imperial lands to raid and trade, and then returning to their ancestral freedom. 2 generations ago, however, something happened far away to the east. A change in the winds, perhaps, or some terrible but distant conqueror, and the horse clans were set in motion. Urkhun the Khuzait led the clans nearest the empire into its eastern provinces, overrunning them and forming a Khanate. He imposed discipline on the unruly clans, forcing them to ride to war on his command, instead of simply when they wished. But after his death, the spirit of the unity that he inspired was lost. His descendants still rule the Khanate, but some of the other clans chafe under his authority, and others dream of becoming Khan themselves. A century before the start of Bannerlord, the Calradic Empire extended all the way to the border of the Great Grass Sea. The steppe tribes on the border, which included the Khuzaits, Nanchagan, Khergits, Khergits, and Khuzaits, were disunited. The empire was able to keep the tribes fighting amongst themselves by bribing chiefs and assassinating khans that were consolidating power. However, 2 generations before the start of Bannerlord, steppe tribes from the far east pushed westward toward the empire. Caught between a hammer and anvil, the border tribes united in a confederacy under Urkhun the Khuzait. This confederation grew in power by conquering and raiding the most eastern extents of the empire. Taxes and tariffs were levied on these conquered towns and lands. Eventually, the confederacy became known as a Khanate. Urkhun ruled the Khuzait Khanate with supreme authority, not allowing vassalized clans to raid or declare war without his approval. This settled and more conventional lifestyle did not sit well with some of the more unruly clans, such as the Khergits. After Urkhun's death, his descendants continued to rule. However, many clans felt that they should be the ones to rule the Khanate. The 9-horsetail banner is the symbol of the Khuzait Khanate. Light cavalry warfare, lancers, and especially the way of the mounted archer is the military specialty of the Khuzaits. On an overworld map, Khuzait cavalry armies move 10% faster than all other armies. There are many strengths of the Khuzait military, but I will just be focusing on the 4 biggest here. Firstly, the Khuzait Khanate offers you the fastest access to both mounted archers and lancers, meaning that their cavalry will often quickly surpass other factions as it is what they specialize in. Secondly, their infantry branch troops carry a well-rounded kit of equipment, including blades, polearms, throwing spears, and large wicker shields, which offer excellent protection. This makes their infantry some of the more versatile units in the game. Another major strength is that most of their ranged troops carry 2 quivers of arrows, which greatly extends their effectiveness both as stationary archers and skirmishers. Lastly, all tiers of their noble troops utilize horses, which leans heavily on the importance of cavalry in both their culture and military prowess. Unfortunately for the Khanate, they do have some notable weaknesses. For one thing, their low-tier infantry does not utilize polearms, which makes them especially vulnerable to cavalry charges, unlike their Aserai neighbors to the south. In addition to this, their melee cavalry does not carry any sort of throwing weapon, which limits their effectiveness at mid-range, which is why certain other factions who do utilize throwing weapons for melee cavalry outclass Khuzait cavalry in the field. Another major weakness, which I hope gets fixed at some point, is that the noble troop progression switches from carrying a shield and 2 quivers, which is great, to lacking basic necessary equipment, making their top-tier noble troops lacking in several areas. Lastly, Khuzait forces lack access to axes entirely, and their noble troop roles may overlap with their common counterparts, reducing overall versatility of their armies. Since Khuzait-based parties are able to rely so much on cavalry, they possess decent tactical mobility on the campaign map. However, extended incursions into enemy territory may deprive them of additional horses to carry their slower foot troops one way or another, slightly reducing mobility over time. As such, a Khuzait war party can advance quickly into desired position, but their retreat may be slower. This can be taken advantage of by opponents who engage the Khuzait mounted forces in rough terrain, where their cavalry is unable to maneuver perfectly. Even so, there's normally little reason for Khuzait horsemen to dismount and fight on foot, as the steppe horse stock is well balanced for health and maneuverability, and the high riding skill of Khuzait horsemen enables them to use their mounts with reasonable effectiveness even in difficult terrain. In simulated battles, the sheer force of Khuzait cavalry should be more than a match to armies of other kingdoms, at least on an open field. In unsuitable terrain and siege battles, as well as in real-time battles where a player who is opposing Khuzait cavalry is able to hinder their mobility, the Khuzait parties can fare much worse than their more balanced forces. Khuzait lancers and horse archers can still be sufficiently capable fighters in siege battles, so players do not need to rely on their infantry options for anything other than defending fiefs, so long as they have access to required supply of riding horses. Players can also take advantage of the possibility of the seemingly stronger enemy garrison sallying out during a siege, reducing Khuzait ineffectiveness in taking over fiefs by engaging the garrison in open combat instead of a siege battle. The starting territory of the Khuzait Khanate is as follows: 6 towns, Akalat, Baltakand, Cheykand, Makeb, Oduk, and Ortengard. They also control 9 castles: Akasur Castle, Dinar Castle, Erzanur Castle, Hakun Castle, Kaiser Castle, Kimli Castle, Samira Castle, Teps Castle, and Usek Castle. In addition to these settlements, they also control 17 small villages. Overall, this makes the Khuzait Khanate one of, if not the smallest faction in the game, at least at the start. Finally, it's time for the final roundup, to finish off the lore of this faction by providing just a little more context. In Mount&Blade Warband, which is set 200 years after the events of Bannerlord, the Khuzait Khanate has been usurped from within by a minor clan, the Khergits. By this point, the Khanate has conquered most of the territory which formerly belonged to the Empire and Sturgians. The Khuzait Khanate are the ancestors of Khurjit Khanate. One of the clans in the Khanate are the Khergits themselves. They are most likely inspired by the Turkic and Mongolic peoples, as both are known for their nomadic culture, with the horse being central in their lives as semi-pastoralist nomads. They might be inspired by the Seljuk Turks, a Turkic dynasty and people fleeing from the Oghuz Confederacy after Seljuk, the ancestor and founder of the dynasty, angered the Yabgu of the Oghuz Confederacy. The Khuzaits in turn have confederated after fleeing westward away from a major power that is called the Great Horde. Personally, I like to think of them as the Cuman Kipchak Confederation, as they fit in most ways with the armor, weapons, culture, and tactics, as well as occasionally acting as mercenaries for Western European powers. I also think this works well, as it would be neat to think the Khuzaits were fleeing west, trying to establish a kingdom, as they are being driven out of the east by an even more warlike steppe power in the Mongol hordes. Well, in any case, that does it for this video. I hope you liked it, and I now invite you to share anything that you think I may have missed or glossed over down in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it very informational. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.